anyone else ready for a sweaty ops tonight?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm already sweaty, let's go.
Dude, I've been sweating for the past, like, fucking 16 hours. It's wild. It is wild.
Swapping battery! Cover me!
Take some ammunition.
Could you say that it's like being on fire?
Dude, I was in a building today in a hospital, and it was so fucking hot inside. The pit stains were like 5 to 6 inches in diameter. It's not okay.
Wow. You know, funny you talk about being hot in a hospital, because I saw news in Russia where like you had like a nurse that had that basically sweat through her PPE gear, and you see, and you like she's quite literally in her underwear.
The way that
I went for training.
the way we've all encircled Loker, it really looks like we're playing keep away and we're all shooting at you.
I was trying to get Salence in.
I learned how to immobilize someone on a longboard today.
You learned how to kill someone on a longboard?
No, immobilize them. You know, take them prisoner.
With a longboard? Why would you ever do that?
It's not a, it's like a full human-sized longboard. It's like a surfboard.
Wait,
You gotta strap them in.
did you clothesline someone on a longboard? Why would you do such a thing?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. But that, and I learned how to extricate someone from a car wreck while keeping their spine immobilized.
All right.
I feel offended because I'm a longboarder and I don't like people clotheslining me off of it while I'm going 20 miles an hour.
It's all medical stuff. It's not actual longboarding.
Alright, let's get to the strafing stuff. So, like I said before, pretty much we're just in Warp Gate here so we can have the longest amount of time to test without killing somebody, or like the longest fights. So, I guess we'll start with the basics. So, the main idea behind strafing, or movement while you're shooting or fighting somebody, is to dodge bullets. And the real balance there is making sure you aren't making it harder for yourself to aim, while still being as hard for the enemy to hit as possible. So it's kind of a combo of practice, just knowing your own movements and matching your mouse movements to those keyboard movements, but also it's just like learning your gun and knowing where the spread is and all that. Yeah, so I guess just let's start shooting each other, I suppose. So we can either do like a couple groups or just go all out. Just somebody starts shooting you, start dancing, pretty much like fight each other to kill, but of course we can't kill each other here, so just go crazy and shoot each other. Try to dodge as many bullets as you can. If you see somebody shooting at you, shoot back at them. Try to do like normal gunfights. This is the only way you can practice, really. Kind of practice your movements. If you're a heavy assault, make sure you pop your shield at some points in time. To make sure you practice that speed change. Because as you pop your shield, your speed like halves or like quarters. It really is a huge debuff to you, speed-wise. So it's like one of the tips that I said early on was while you're fighting, once your like main default shield pops, pop your heavy shield after that if you can, if at all possible. So then you have the longest amount of time moving at that high speed. Oh, let me get in. There we go. And intro. Actually, I'll just do an invite everybody. Simple. But yeah, so when strafing back and forth, you kind of need to both move fast, but you need to not move like in one direction for too long. But it also means you need to not move too short. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Like, I mean, your main idea isn't to just move. Your main idea is actually dodge bullets. So kind of watch where your enemy's shooting, and as soon as they start to kind of hit you a little bit, that's when you switch directions and maybe crouch a bit. And if you notice they're hitting your head too much, if you're seeing their bullets kind of go over your head, maybe it's time to crouch a bit and kind of duck to the side. So it's all about feeling, really, and being unpredictable. It's also really good practice for tracking. You have to track your enemy while you're fighting. The best part about this type of skill, like learning this skill, is that this is usable on all classes. Not only heavy assaults, you can be medics and all that. The only thing heavies need to know is just your shield slows you down. Every other class doesn't have that issue, but they also don't have the benefit of the shield, so they have to be even better at this sort of gameplay if they want to be able to win 1v1s against like heavy assaults or any other infantry player, like infantry classes. This is pretty much what makes you really strong at infantry play, being able to dodge bullets while still aiming. Also, while reloading, you can like get out of ADS and sprint around a little bit more, which is something that's nice and easy to do sometimes. So there's one thing to note while strafing, if you haven't seen it before, like while, or I guess theorem shuffling as people used to call it, like while you're not ADS and you're trying to kind of get away from somewhere. The main idea there is kind of move your mouse downward instead of like left and right, so you're kind of doing a U-shape, like while switching directions. That seems to be the quickest way to switch directions, while 80-80ing as well. Like, so you're holding W, but switching between A and D as you're looking those directions. That's kind of how you strafe and dodge bullets. Something else to note is, like the NS-15 and some other NS weapons have something called an ADS modifier of 0.75, which means while you're looking down sights, you're slowed down a little less, so you're like 75% is the speed as if you were just not aiming down sights. Whereas normal LMGs or other weapons have a 0.5 usually. So you'll notice as you're strafing without looking down sight, you're moving pretty fast. As soon as you look down sights, you're moving much slower. So keep that in mind as you're fighting. So you may need to move more in one direction and keep your like strafe, like keep your left and right clicks longer just because you're slower. While if you're using an NS-15 or other 0.75 weapon, you maybe need to move a little less, so they have less time to track you. But yeah, I'll practice and determine and like learning your weapon. And this is probably the best way to practice strafing, because you have moving targets and actual humans that can react to you. Oh yeah, something else to note. If you're running cat-like, you can actually crouch fully, since it won't slow you down. But usually if you're not running cat-like, you want to, instead of crouching fully, you want to just like tap the crouch button, just so your head moves down just a tiny bit. So you still get the benefit of lowering your hitbox, but you don't get the movement speed penalty of being fully crouched. But if you're running cat-like 5, or, well, any of the cat-likes really, you can stay crouched for a lot longer to dodge more bullets. You should have keep in mind
Cat
that
like
somebody's aiming
5
for your
also
chest.
gives you that extra jump as well.
Yes, and the extra jump is really nice. Like something I like to do a lot, I guess not necessarily strafing, but if somebody's coming around the corner, I do it all the time. I'll just jump right over their head and hit them down with like an Amaterasu, because the Amaterasu is great at hitting somebody when you're jumping over them. Yeah, I'm seeing some good movement here. Also, while you're strafing, you need to not worry as much about keeping it the same every time. So if, for instance, if you feel like, oh, they're really aiming to the left this time and you want to move right for a little bit longer, feel free to do that. Like, just keeping it fresh is really what you want to do.
So there's a Sunderer on the backside of the Zen.
Also, with somebody's close range, you don't necessarily need to ADS. So you can move that super fast speed while not ADSing, and dodges a lot of bullets. But of course, you have the downside of your gun's nowhere near as accurate. So you either have to aim center of mass to get the most shots, or really praise RN Jesus and pray to him and aim for the head and see if you can get those headshot kills. But that's a lot of risk and reward type deal stuff. But yeah, awesome. I guess let's go try it out against some enemies here.
I've equipped my Iferdine and a smoke launcher.
Nice.
Oh, boy.
Oh, here we go. Got some good fights on Amarish. Let's go see if we can get over there. Hope there's not too much of a queue. What's Pops look like? We're leaving. We'll see. Hope there's not too many of us.
Okay, this comes with 3 smoke grenades. Okay, let's go.
No queue at all.
Oh, whoops. Actually, you don't need the platoon waypoint. I just put Alpha there.
Lochran, what implants do you typically run on, say, a heavy?
So, I've actually been switching around quite a bit recently. I've been trying to figure out what's the best. I love Cat-like, so I've been running Cat-like non-stop. But then my second implant is what I keep changing around. Originally, I used to run Mobility Mesh, because I really liked the extra movement. But then I switched to Battle Hard, because I thought it might help me against, like, once I get shot. Because when you actually shoot somebody and hit them, it actually flinches them. So it makes their gun less accurate as you're hitting them. So Battle Hard kind of counteracts that. Although recently, I've actually switched to Assimilate for live play, so that if I kill one person, I am pretty much fully refreshed with Adrenaline Shield, and I can shoot the second person. So it's helped me in 1v2s, 1v3s, and like just general live play. So I've actually been running Assimilate now.
Assimilate and Critical Chain are both very, very good for heavy.
Oh, wait, Critical Chain works for heavy? For...
Oh, never mind.
I was gonna say, like, that'd be...
Me forgetting how to read. Don't worry about it.
That'd be good for infill.
Very good for infill.
Yes.
I never run it on infill.
I wish it worked for LMGs.
I usually end up running... I always have safe fall on any class that I run, just due to the fact that orbitals are a thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially if you're doing outside bases, and that's something personally I found that's very, very useful for this type of situation.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about implants. Like, people always say there's a best one, but I honestly feel there is no best one. It's all either situation if you want to be really min-maxy, or it's all up to your gameplay. Like, whatever works best for you.
I've heard Survivalist is kind of fucking broken.
It has a couple
I run
of
Survivalist and Assimilate most of the time.
But it's so much fun.
Pretty
it's
good.
So great. Yeah. But yeah, so right now I run Assimilate 5 and Cat-like 5. Because I really like the bonus of Assimilate 5 that gives you extra shield energy. And then that stacks with Adrenaline Shield. So I get like 60% energy when I kill somebody. So it nearly refreshes me to full in the middle of a 2v1. So I just find myself a lot more successful.
We got a squad?
Yeah. Let me... everybody. Yeah, we're pretty much on to the live play of stuff. Just did a quick practice in Warp Gate, and if you want to still play in Warp Gate, no problem. Feel free to. If you find a buddy, or if there's nobody else there, let me know, and I will hop on back and shoot some more. But yeah, we pretty much started out with in Warp Gate, just kind of strafing back and forth and practicing shooting each other, just simply because it'll drag on the fight and you won't kill them midway through. So it's the best way to really practice your strafing. Or your dancing, however you want to call it. Pretty much 80-80 spam, dodging bullets while still crouching and just trying to dodge headshots. And kind of the way I think about it too is while fighting, you kind of pretend that you are the character and you're just trying to ducking and dodging in your chair and kind of translating that to your keyboard movements. That's how I find it works best, those days when I really feel connected, essentially.
2 drop on Alpha.
Roger that. Oh yeah, another thing. I guess the biggest thing I notice enemy players. You can really tell if it's a super skilled player based on how they dance, or that's what I call it. Dancing is like the 80-80 spam and crouching. You can really tell if it's a good player as to where instead of just doing some canned movements where they're doing the exact same movements in the exact same direction, like for the same amounts of time, where they're really shaking it up, and they're like, instead of moving just left and right, you kind of moving back and forth a little bit, just enough to kind of throw your aim off a little bit. In addition to crouching at uneven intervals, like pretty much they notice as soon as you start hitting them, and that's when they crouch, as opposed to just crouching right off the bat, or crouching just as part of their movements. And on the opposite end of that, I can tell players that are potentially still working on their strafes to where they may be strafing a little too fast. They kind of just spam left and right. And so instead of actually moving their character's kind of just moving his feet back and forth and not actually moving the model. I catch myself doing that same thing sometimes. When I get too excited, I'll spam the buttons a bit too fast, and I can just tell that I'm taking every bullet. It's just a little bit of knowing what you're doing, as well as trying to keep yourself calm so you're not getting overly excited about shooting.
C is pretty heavy if you want to go practice there.
I'm way over it. Also, something that's good to note is if you can keep track of people around you. So, for instance, you're trying to kill one person on the left, but you see somebody else on the right that's shooting at you. You can also strafe front to back. So instead of just using 80-80, you can actually use W and S. If you know the person you're shooting isn't really shooting back at you, but the person to your right is shooting at you, and you don't really feel like shooting the person to your right, you can kind of just strafe like in the opposite direction and still dodge those bullets while you're still trying to kill somebody. And that's something that's not usually the best thing to do, but I find myself doing it a lot if I really want to kill somebody and get that extra assimilate, like shield energy. So I'll try to shoot one person that's not paying attention while going to the second person later on in the fight, when I know I can probably take them out, given that I've dodged so many of their bullets, and still have that first kill under my belt.
User joined your channel.
Also, of course, I know I said it at the beginning too, but while you're practicing these things, like don't feel bad if you're getting killed a lot, or if you're dying a bunch, or you're getting in these crazy fights. And like, remember, we're all practicing this stuff, and like, as you're getting better, it's always a rough road. Like some days, of course, it might be just super perfect all the time, but I know at least for me, I have a lot of days where it's like, oh man, this isn't going too well, and that could be anything. It could be like maybe you're playing against some great players, or maybe you're just playing against insurmountable odds, or maybe it's just not a great day.
Like Ezimir, like a half hour ago.
So yeah, just make sure while you're practicing,
I
don't get down.
just killed Kamikaze 78.
Nice.
It's your mate, Kamikaze 78, here with another Planetside video.
He actually went over a pretty good recoil video. Yesterday it came out, the year before.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a sponge. I'm new to Planetside still, and know it has a lot of. Every shooter has a lot of concepts like strafing and peeking and holding angles, but you got to apply that to the concepts of every other game, like how Planetside has client side aspect and peeker's advantage, and other games don't necessarily have that.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time doing the 80-80 a lot. I don't transition well between the two. That's the thing I'm always looking to work on.
Yeah, and I do think that is like one of the most important things that you can like. That's the one thing when you see somebody do it, you're like, okay, that person has probably played this game for a bit, or that person's really put some time into to work on this aspect of the game. Like that's the one determining factor I think when you see somebody that you know they're a force to be reckoned with, or somebody to kill right away.
My entertaining sign of playing shooters for too long was in Gary's mod when somebody was trying to, stand next to me and be sneaky and shoot me. And he couldn't shoot me in the head because even when I'm not in a fight, I'm just wiggling constantly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
That's just like habit from Planetside from getting sniped too often.
Well, it's a habit from playing shooters for 20 plus years.
Well, that's a great note too. Against people like Voodoo Monkey and Shoddy and all those amazing bolters. Just when kind of crouching as soon as you see them, like if you see them looking at you, don't wait for even a second, just crouch right then, and usually you'll dodge their shots.
You make it sound like they're just boss characters.
So you're saying is the sooner your drop shot better players, the better, because they're already aiming at your head.
Yep. Well, at least if it's a sniper, because like you can't even take a bullet. Like for most LMGs, you can take a bullet or two, so you can kind of react. Except against like NC heavies, because they have the 200 damage weapons that 3-shot you. But against most weapons, you can take a bullet or two, so you can kind of react. Bolters, you can't react. You have to preemptively either pop your shield or duck down. And usually you don't want to preemptively pop your shield because one, it slows you down, and two, it drains some energy turning it on. So that's just like another bullet you lost, essentially.
You went over this concept a couple weeks ago, and I don't play heavy, so I didn't really understand it fully. But you're like, I try and pop my heavy shield when my normal shield breaks.
Yes.
Like what? Why?
So when you pop your heavy shield, it slows you down a lot. So the reason I always tell myself, and I always forget this, every day I gotta remind myself this, I try to pop my shield as soon as my normal shield goes down, and the only reason for that is I get as much time as possible at that high movement speed. So there's a couple different things that determine movement speed in this game. Like when you're not ADSing, you're just like running around, not holding shift, just like back and forth, hip firing, you're at 1.0, so totally default movement speed. When you ADS, your gun's ADS multiplier is applied to it. So most guns have a 0.5, which means you're slowed down by 50%. Some guns have a 0.75, such as the NS-15, and I think there's a couple others, like medic weapons that do as well. So that means when you ADS, like aim down sight, you're slowed down by 75%, so you're a little bit faster, which means for those weapons, they may have lower DPS overall and less damage per bullet, but you can dodge more bullets, so it makes them, I feel, a little bit better for my own gameplay, and if you use a lot of strafing, that might be better for you too. And then there's also, for heavy assaults, the heavy overshield applies a huge movement debuff, and it's actually different per shield. I think the Resist shield has a larger movement speed penalty. I may be wrong on that. I haven't used Resist shield for years now, but yeah, so when you pop your shield, you're slowed down even more, and that stacks on top of whether you're ADSing or not, that stacks on whether you're hip firing, just everything in general. Whether you're crouching also has a movement speed penalty if you're not running cat-like.
So you're ADSing with your overshield moving like a snail space.
Yeah, and if you're crouching, you're just barely going to move. There's not even really a point in moving at that point. You should probably just take your accuracy bonus you get from not moving. Oh, yeah, that's another thing to note. While moving, at different levels, you have different levels of bloom and accuracy debuff on your weapon. So if you're standing still crouching, you can fire your gun more accurate for the longest amount of time. If you're standing still, standing up while ADSing, it's a little bit less accurate, but it's still pretty accurate because you're not moving. As soon as you start moving, that's when you start getting a pretty decent-sized accuracy penalty, and then even more if you jump. If you're jumping or flying or anything, you have the largest penalty unless you're running with carbines. So that's something to keep in mind too. It's kind of balancing all of that. So if you want to like really practice your aim and you're going to be really good at aiming, it might be worth it for you to just stand still and quad ping their head. Or if they don't notice you potentially, see if you can really line up that first shot so you can get a couple bullets in before you start strafing. But yeah, so that is why I pop my overshield at the latest possible moment, so I have the most time I can possibly have to dodge bullets. Because during a gunfight, at the beginning, if they haven't shot and you haven't shot, their weapon's going to be the most accurate, as well as your weapon's going to be the most accurate. So this is when you want to get your headshots out, and this is when you want to dodge their shots, so that if they aren't, and a lot of people don't think about this through every fight, we need to burst fire. So, and if they aren't burst firing, that means at the end of those first 3 or 4 shots, their bullets are going to start flying every which way. So if you can dodge those first couple accurate shots, you've gotten over the worst of the fight. So
could someone at an Alpha North place a beacon, please?
I can do it. I got a Alpha Beacon.
Thank you.
So yeah, pretty much just a couple things. A lot of reasons why. Like thinking about it. I lost my thought, but yeah.
Why don't you end up running Resist Shield anymore?
So Resist Shield, I think originally it was because it gave such a huge debuff to movement speed. So like if you're 80-80 strafing, it's probably not worth it. Although Resist Shield's really good for like peeking corners because you can preemptively pop it, and while you're taking damage, you don't lose any energy. So it lets you kill more people than you could have potentially with Nanite Mesh. Also, Resist Shield just is a flat degrade to energy, so I feel you can't take as large of a pool of damage like instantly. Like, it pretty much doesn't protect you from burst damage as much as the Nanite Mesh does, while Resist will help you kind of with sustained fights. So yeah, it's kind of just a combo of lower movement speed, which doesn't fit my personal gameplay because I like moving around a lot, dodging bullets. I rely more on dodging than I do aiming, which is why I'm working on my aiming so much. But yeah.
I thought we were all using Adrenaline Shield still.
I love Adrenaline Shield just simply because it lets you kill more than one person. It pretty much offsets the downsides of the Nanite Mesh generator, like the default one. Because while Adrenaline Shield pretty much has like really garbage regen speed without killing somebody, which kind of makes it annoying if you kind of shoot somebody but don't kill them and they kind of get away or get shot by somebody else. So you gotta wait for a long time to be up to full combat potential again. But
so Adrenaline, everyone uses Adrenaline Shield because everyone uses the tactic you either kill them or you die. There is no in between.
Yep. Yeah, maybe I'll switch to Resist. Let me try it out.
Like,
that's something you gotta do. You gotta try it everything.
Resist has great uptime, but like and NMG like is really good as well. But like if you're just gonna like go in face first, then Adrenaline, you don't lose anything with Adrenaline Shield.
Yep. Also, Resist, you gotta
because
pop
just
it before
gonna
you
be
get to
dead.
the fight, or before you
just
take
call
the
it
first
Aggression Shield.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just Aggression Shield.
Exactly.
Well, that's why it's Adrenaline.
Yeah.
What a rush.
Nice.
Like, if you're holding a point, then Resist or Nanite Mesh Shield are superior.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think, like, personally, I don't see much of a point to Nanite other than it's cheaper to cert out, so it's really great. Or if you aren't expecting to get too many kills, so maybe you're just kind of, like, suppressing a lane, might be really good, or, like, a really long range.
Or if you're bad.
So, like, 95% of players. You mean 95% of players?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's good for a lot of them, but I think Resist would probably be better for them in a lot of cases.
It's mostly a joke, but people will see very good players running like Adrenaline Shield and shit like Assimilate, and they'll go, oh, that's the way to be. But that does rely on you getting headshots and killing people to work well.
Exactly.
And when you're new, you probably don't, so it's not great.
Yeah, no, I don't think
Nanite Mesh is
great
maybe good for 1 or 2 engagement, and then you're done. Which is perfect for new players.
How many people survive 1 or 2 engagements?
That really depends on your playstyle.
One, you're doing really well because it only takes like 3 or 4 bullets. Like maybe not even that, like 2 or 3.
Sort of like I don't use medkits.
I love medkits. I'm addicted to medkits.
I've literally never used one a single time in this game.
I think I was like in 4th place on the server for most medkits used back in the day.
I have been a big proponent of Resist Shield. Like,
yeah, I mean if this
under replacement hurts me.
Great.
Yeah, like you get hit, you lose your shields, you get back to cover, and then when you're back up, you have your not only your regular shields, but you have your overshields pretty much effectively. You're back up to effective health 1350.
I mean, part of this stuff is minutia of theory crafting, right? Like, most of these things don't have enormous impacts, like the differences between them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
it's fun to play with, and they have little increases, and depending on your playstyle, they might fit you better. And certain occasional things are pretty monstrous, but most of the time, for the average person, the difference between nanite mesh and resist or something is not huge.
Yeah, they're all going to be very similar gameplay-wise. Like right now, I'm playing with resist, and I'm noticing that I can't jump in as much as I like to. I have to kind of peek around corners more. I have to be better about peeking.
My problems are less with shooting and more with patience. I after a while playing and dying a lot, I'm like, man, every single fight I get into is me against like 5 people, and then I go, that's probably my fault.
It's always my fault.
No, totally not. They're just hacking. Yeah.
No, but like, sometimes I'm slicing and I'm staying behind people and I'm edging in, and sometimes I'm impatient and I just go.
Although maybe resist is better if you like your KD. I'm getting a much better KD with my resist shield. I'm not suicidal.
I'm getting a much better KD by not charging into the spawn.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows?
Are you kidding me? That's the best way to play. I don't know what you guys are.
So it does help to like imagine myself narrating to someone like what I would be doing, should be doing. Like if I was making a tutorial or something, so then I think about all my actions and don't do stupid things.
Yes, absolutely. That's actually, I do that every time I'm practicing. I get in and I was like, okay, I need to remember, aim for the neck. I need to remember, pop my shield after my shields go down. This is just like I just pretty much read my own personal tips off to me every time I'm playing. Like when I want to get better type of deal. Like when I'm feeling like, oh man, it's not going great today. It's like, okay, remember the tips, remember the tricks. Like pay attention, kind of relax a little bit, but make sure you're attentive. Don't just stare at the screen blankly, like I like to do. Sometimes.
One of the best reminders to what range I should be fighting is putting a 3.4 scope on my rifle.
Yes, that's a good point. I do the same thing with.
It's like
range.
I have to stay back. Like I either stay back, like, cause for the appropriate weapons anyway.
I'll totally 4x my Ursa.
That's actually
I have the 3/4 for the flare, which fucking destroys.
Flare is actually more of a 2x, 1x, 2x weapon.
Isn't it a bit longer ranges or longer range?
It is a bit longer.
It can push out,
it's
but
lower rate of fire. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all whatever works.
Yes, but that's why you switch to the burst fire mode.
I don't think I've ever used burst on
flare.
I used to use it on the TMG when I first started on TR. I actually really liked it. I was so surprised when I found it. I was like, what? Burst fire on LNG? I'm down. But that was when the gun was broken and nobody used it, and it got like 2-hit KO headshot because the quad ping was perfectly accurate with the TMG when it was in burst fire mode. So I just pop, they're dead. Pop, just over and over again. It was great. But I think they nerfed it after that. They nerfed all the LMGs.
Sort of like the old FAMA, whatever you want to call it, in Counter-Strike. The burst just put all 3 rounds in the same spot.
Yep. Man, that was so good about burst weapons.
The Lacerda does that now. It's fucking gross. I love it.
Something else I gotta learn with resist is to not turn it off between fights. I have a bad habit of turning off my shield between fights just so I can get that extra movement speed, but that also costs me because the shields have a turn-on cost. But that's just something to kind of get used to and work on. But also, something else to note is when you have resist or adrenaline shield, you need to pop your shield on after it's depleted fully because it counts as turning off. So, like, you pretty much never turn it off once it runs out of energy. You kind of just keep turning it back on in the middle of fights. So sometimes I'll catch myself, if my shield isn't actually off all the way, I'll turn my shield off for the next fight and turn it on. But I don't really know how to get around that other than paying attention better. But it's kind of hard to pay attention when you're shooting somebody.
The NC are doing the same thing as the last continent.
Failing?
Hard zerging us.
Oh,
They're just hard zerging us. So can someone get on command chat and yell
at us? They have a
us?
Sunday on 8 point? I didn't even park one there.
I'm about to hit 4,000 A7. What weapon should I get? I already have the showdown.
They all kind of.
Whatever you don't have
Tranquility's
yet.
good, but the sidearms all kind of suck.
whatever
the
gun you don't
Derringer
have.
is just a piece of shit.
Like I'm using it
that's what
just
I've
because
seen.
like
It's like a handshake.
the
I don't-
one
I
out of 1,000
hate-
fights where you
I
get that
hate the
headshot
free
kill.
shot
It's
on it.
great.
Yeah, it is fun. It was 1 out of a bunch of shots.
It is
I mean,
a headshot
it does
instant
fire
kill
6
if you
rounds, but it fires 2 each, so it's
Yeah.
3.
So if both pellets hit within 2 meters, it's a one hit kill. Which like never
Sorry,
happens.
full stop.
You're good, bro.
And the short bow is, I mean, it's nice when you gotta fight maxes up close, but other than that, it's not good.
The short bow's pretty booty unless you're shooting specifically at vehicles or maxes.
Well, I mean, the archer's better than it, and you can put a straight pull bolt. The only difference is the short bow, you can put like a 1 or 2x on it, whereas with the archer, if you're point blank on a max and you're trying to use the built-in sights, it's painful. Unless you're perfectly fine with using that much magnification point blank, in which case the archer is purely better. It also helps if you can have shotgun secondary, though.
How's the archer's hip
Shotgun
fire?
secondary slaps.
The archer you can put a laser on, right? So there's that.
I have a engineer loadout called Ted Kaczynski, and it's just the Phobos and the Demios.
I love the secondary shotgun engineer. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
that's what I'm looking at as when I Iraq's engineer. I forget. I think it was you
That's
that mentioned that. I want to go shotgun primary, secondary.
I'm just annoyed that I can't use my chaos as the secondary.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Effing chat.
I wanted to carry Revenant Chaos just to be a dick.
Yeah, I forgot that what's called the Gallows was a bounty reward, because I wanted to put on my engineer yesterday, because I have LMGs for engineer. So I usually run LMG and shotgun.
That is in fact how it be.
So much fun.
I'm basically engineer main, but it's usually either archer shotgun or carbine shotgun, because I still have like 1 more carbine to a Rex.
I'm in the same boat. I have 275 more maw kills until I get my battle goose.
I mean, I've got all the Iraq's weapon categories. I'm talking just weapons in general. I'm finishing off my second Tonto for no reason other than I can't help myself.
Tonto's a fun weapon, though.
User joined your channel.
You know, I joke about not wanting to get better, but honestly, there are times when I make decisions to not get better. Like you're talking about all this crouching stuff, and I could totally do those things, and I could totally work crouches into my shuffling and stuff. But also, I really like to use toggle crouch because I'm lazy as fuck, and so I'm just going to.
You could also bind the hold crouch. Like I have my toggle crouch on C, and then I have my control is not toggle crouch.
User joined your
That
channel.
might work for you. Because I know I like to have toggle crouch sometimes if I'm just like actually crouching around like as an infill. But then I like, for my normal gameplay, I need control to be just quick crouch.
Makes sense.
I'm so glad they added that in so that you can bind into separate keys. Because I do really like to use toggle crouch for stealth. Because it's so painful having to hold down the button for so long.
Yeah. Especially now that I switched over to modern controls. It used to be in shooters that shift was crouch, and there was no sprint, so it didn't matter. And then over time the default control scheme switched, and you had control for crouch and shift for sprint, and that took me forever to switch.
No. I switch it every time.
User joined your channel.
Every game that has that. Shift will always be crouch.
Back when I played Skyrim, my sprint key was bound to Alt, and that is the only thing I ever used. And it took some getting used to get to Fallout 4, where they switched it up on you and just put the sprint to shift. I was like,
no,
excuse me, Bethesda, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like, this is the
You
worst.
can't just do that to me, Todd. Come on, Todd.
Also took forever to get used to mouse wheel doing anything but firing. Because old school Counter-Strike with the dual Berettas, if you bound mouse wheel to fire, you could roll it and fire with unlimited rate of fire.
That double shot bind, though.
You just go.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, because it's a pistol, but relatively cheap. But you could just scroll the mouse wheel as fast as you could. If you got a Logitech mouse and you can unclick the mouse wheel and just roll it, you would empty all 30 rounds like instantly.
They used to do the same shit on Rainbow Six Raven Shield 2 on PC before they started banning the server side.
That poor info just got screwed by the kill cam. I died to his proxy and it highlighted him. I just turned around and headshotted him because he was crouched on the point.
Ooh, that's unfortunate.
Oh no.
Sleepy wants an invite, maybe.
I got it.
They're just camped out on that north bridge, firing down on the backs of our heads as we try to cross through the triple stack.
User disconnected from your channel.
I'm seeing so many old fucking Briggs vets, and it makes me so happy.
It's good they're playing.
I love to see it.
User joined your channel.
There are a few things more satisfying than clipping somebody off of a mana turret with a headshot.
Oh man. Did you play back in the day when you could hold Q and it would auto-target somebody's head?
I don't remember that. I've been playing since beta, but...
Oh yeah, when the AV turrets first came out, you know how you could hold Q to target somebody? That actually worked on enemies as well. So even from infinite range, like whenever they rendered, you could just hold Q on them and it would auto-target their head. And since it's wire guided, it would always hit their head and you get headshots.
Wow.
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
I remember... I think I had Raxed the AV turret sniping infantry in the head back when it was one shot. But it wasn't locking, like it was just because you could wire guide it, you could just lead it in and blow them away. It would one-shot infantry, so it was the best way to handle infantry at range.
Yep. Yeah, no. A lot of people did the hold Q because you could just insta-kill anybody. It was literally aimbot, but it was in the game. It was kind of
That is amazing.
Thankfully, they patched it out.
Do we have a squad up?
Yeah.
Oh, we have lots of squads up.
You need to choose the real one.
We have a multitude.
They have a Sunday northeast outside of that one triple. Or something, they're coming from there.
$986 kills left. Part of the Yumi.
Gross.
550 more kills left for the mana turret.
User joined your channel.
Which one?
I would not do the vehicle one. I would shoot myself in the face
User joined
first.
your channel.
You'd shoot yourself in the face with the mana turret?
Live on the...
Both, yes. I'd shoot the tow missile out, then chase after it with my mouth open.
User
And I give it to
joined your
myself for
channel.
$20. Yeah, if it was like vehicle destructions or vehicle damage or something like that, but not 1,160 kills with the vehicle, I feel like that would take way too long.
I think vehicles
that and the Spitfire
count as the kills.
because like the engineer, 3 out of the 5 are super easy. It's like, oh, repair ribbons, those come easy. 1,200 kills, okay, that just comes with time. You know, resupply, that's literally our job. And it's like, okay, well, where are the other ones gonna come from? Like Spitfire,
Gross.
mana turret, vehicle mana turret, sticky grenades.
Stickies are easy to
That's
do.
possible. Sticky grenades are possible.
It was a toss between sticky and mana turret.
Honestly,
like
stickies are harder to use than regular nades.
So it's a toss for one to do. I feel like it was a toss between the mana turret and the sticky grenades. The mana turret just felt more reliable because you stick it in a hallway and shoot.
No, sticky grenades are easy if you have a reliable light assault partner.
Stickies you can bandolier, and I mean almost any grenade type. You can
the bandolier goes without saying, but with frags you can slingshot them into a room.
Yeah, you can do that. And you can bounce them off a wall. The sticky, you hit the door frame and as it's.
No, you just need a you just need to partner yourself up with a suicidal lighter.
Check this out. Check this out. The 5 that I did for engineer in the order I did them. First, I did resupply. Second, I did AV turret because you could one-shot infantry back then. Then I got kills, repairing, and sticky grenade. I didn't do anti-personnel turret, and Spitfires didn't exist back then.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't
I think
that's feasible in the realm of engineer today.
I think with all the nerfs they've done to the AV turret's range, they could at least let it one-shot infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a missile. It should blow a man apart.
It is also really weird that the default launcher will not one-shot infantry without flak armor, but the ground lock-on will. The ground lock-on and the Desi.
It's kind of weird for any rocket or missile not to one-shot infantry.
Well, I'm fine with some of them not one-shotting infantry that have flak armor.
I mean, have you ever seen a human being get tagged anywhere?
That's
in the
a stupid argument to make in this game.
I mean,
we don't have nanite revives in this game either.
That's the big argument with like realism in shooters and whatnot. Some people are like, oh well, this is what would happen in real life. Well, this is how you would balance it in gameplay because there's, I think one of the hardest things in every shooter to balance are shotguns. Shotguns are either oppressively good or they're god awful. And yes, the argument is if you breach a doorway and you shoot anybody within 10 meters of the shotgun, stomach up, they're going to be incapacitated, if not very dead. But it's like, oh yeah, I either do, 2,000 damage or 20. So, I mean, I feel like shotguns are some of the hardest in every game to balance in that respect. Because like I said, these are amazingly at what they do, or it's like, well, there's no point in using one.
Can we talk about Battlefield 4 shotguns where you can, like, outrange a sniper rifle with darts?
Oh, yeah. Dude, shotguns in Battlefield were fun.
They were.
Speaking of shotguns, I just got clawed.
I used to have a ton of fun with the pump shotty in Counter-Strike.
In Counter-Strike?
Yeah. I've always been a fan of using the least effective weapons and making them work, so Counter-Strike, I spent a ton of time with TMP, MAC-10, pump shotgun, pistols.
Like the big machine gun, I forgot what you call it.
SAW,
Yeah.
249. Yeah. Because it's so much more fun to, like, whoop somebody's ass with a shitty gun,
I just realized I've been talking to myself for like 30 minutes because TeamSpeak had the wrong mic on.
Yikes.
Damn.
Feels
I'm
bad,
like, why has no
man.
one answered me?
Y'all thought we were just being rude as hell, just talking over you and shit.
It was after like the third time I got talked over, I was like, something's wrong.